So, LaVar, are you surprised J.J. Watt signed with the Cardinals?
I am a tad bit surprised, Rick. And the reason why I'm surprised is because I felt as though he was leaving, basically saying he was pleading to have an opportunity to go win a championship. Now, I thought that this Arizona Cardinals team was a competitive team last year. They showed a lot of resiliency. They showed a lot of growth. Kyler Murray is a star of the future. This team is really good. I can understand the connections and the ties. DeAndre Hopkins probably being a factor in J.J. Watt thinking about Arizona. You got Pat Peterson. You got Chandler Jones. You have some really fine players. Isaiah Simmons is a stalwart for the future as well on this team. But it confused me because I'm thinking that
you're waiting for that butt.
You're trying to go to. I assume.
You just didn't sound convinced.
Well, I'll say this: Tampa Bay had a similar record to what Arizona had and won a Super Bowl the next year because they got one of the most amazing free agents that you could get. Now, does that apply to a
Was that a Tom
lineman?
Brady comparison?
Does that okay? So, does that compare to a defensive lineman that's in the twilight of his career? Because if it does, then this makes sense. But if it doesn't, then I feel as though now I have to question J.J. Watt's sincerity and genuineness of why he tried to get up out of Dodge in Houston, which now makes me look at Deshaun Watson and say, there is something going on in Houston. So for me, I look at it and I say, face value, I'm a tad bit confused by it because I thought he would have gone to a team like Kansas City, like Tampa Bay, take less money and get an opportunity to get a ring. But he got a good payday. I'm not counting anybody's money. I'm okay with it, G&J. It just confused me in terms of if you're trying to get that Super Bowl ring. I don't know that was the decision to make.
Yeah, for me, when I first heard the news, first off, I'm going to say yes. I was surprised. And then I was like, what? And then I was a little disappointed. All of these reasons being because after listening to J.J. Watt, after calling their games this year, a couple of their games, and sitting down and talking to him and hearing the disgust in his voice, but the desire to just win, have an opportunity to win. I'm not talking about being competitive. I'm talking about winning, like it all. That's what he really wanted going into the back end of his career. And then I'm letting it sink in a little bit more. And to be honest, I'm still kind of disappointed. I'm just disappointed because although I know I like Vance Joseph at the play calling defensive side, defensive coordinator, and Chandler Jones, they lost him last year and they didn't have a pass rusher. And I believe he will open some things up for J.J. Watt. And you mentioned the other guys, Isaiah and Buda Baker, and they have a lot of great pieces. But that's cool. It's fine to have those great pieces. But when you don't have the coaching, and I think that offensively, I don't think that they're where they need to be offensively to where they can get it done. And he can truly have an opportunity to compete for a Lombardi trophy. That was my understanding of J.J. Watt and his desire to get out of Houston. Now, maybe things change because the money, what they were offering, which I understand that. I've been a free agent before, and I've made the decision to let me go get that dollar and put my family in a better situation as well. But the dollar was definitely more enticing. And I think that's what kind of skewed things a little bit for J.J. Watt, because if he really wanted to be on a contending team, a team that would almost be a lock for a Super Bowl, or you know that you're going to be playing at least deep into the postseason, your considerations would have been the Green Bay Packers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Kansas City Chiefs. Like, in my opinion. Now, if he just wants to still be a player and he knows that he needs assistance and he needs some guys to create some space so he can be the J.J. Watt of old, I don't mind the situation. But I don't believe he's going to accomplish the ultimate goal. And when you're at year 10, going into year 11, and you are coming up on the end of your career, more so than not, winning is the priority. And J.J. Watt has made a ton of money, so I know it's not just about the money for J.J. Watt, but it's hard to look past the fact that he got the asking or the price that he got. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm happy for him, but I am shocked and a little disappointed, Rick.
Look, there's no guarantee that he could have gone to any of those teams you mentioned, Greg, and that he was certain that he was going to get to a Super Bowl. There's nobody that's that dominant at this stage, I believe. But to answer the question, no, I'm not surprised. Did you guys hear what I read? $31 million, $23 million guaranteed for J.J. Watt at this stage of his career. And you're exactly right, Greg. I think he looked at it and said, I can't. First of all, I can't make that money anyplace else. I guarantee you nobody was coming close to that. Take at least 1-0 off of it in terms of what he was going to get. And for 2 years, I just can't see it. But the other part is J.J. Watt last season was his first complete in a while and the worst season by far that he completed overall. J.J. Watt did not look like the J.J. Watt that I'm used to watching on any level. I believe you're absolutely right. He feels like he needs a Chandler Jones to be the least bit effective. And then you got DeAndre Hopkins and you got where the Cardinals are. And I think there's a way for J.J. to convince himself that taking the money isn't all about taking the money. We're pretty good. We got all the things that LaVar said. We got all these reasons. I think LaVar actually was just parroting what was going on in J.J. Watt's head as he picked up the pen and signed that deal, because you can talk yourself into why the Cardinals can potentially get me where I want to go. And in the meantime, I'm guaranteed all that bank. But the bottom line is he's getting paid. I've questioned the Cardinals in this situation. I mean, that's an awful lot to invest in a guy who I believe is past his prime, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to make good on the money. And as a result, that's going to hamstring them in other ways. It
clearly shows JJ's still value and still valued. But I tend to think I don't want to say I have a problem with what you're saying, Rick, but what I would say is, if it's about the money, then stay in Houston. You asked to be let go. You asked to be released. And these reasons why you asked to be let go fall in line with what Greg is talking about. That's what's more confusing. I'm okay with you signing a big deal. Say, I want to leave. I think I can go get a bigger deal somewhere else and I'd be happier playing there. I'd rather him say what it really is than pull the blinds over the window and not allow the fans who have loved him as much as they have and listen to the things that he said. Show up to work. Come ready to work. Our fans deserve better than this. This, that, and other. Say that Houston's some trash. Say that I don't want to be in Houston anymore because I don't feel as though they have the right roadmap to having success, and I'd like to go somewhere else other than being here, even though I love this place. I love the fans.
Weren't you just banging on Russell Wilson for essentially doing that? Weren't you just saying that wasn't a good business practice?
No.
To call out that even if you're doing it kind of behind the scenes,
no, because
to call out and say there's not enough here for me and that's why I'm leaving?
Well,
why is it different for J.J. Watt? Clearly, it wasn't just money. There were other things about the Texans that he does not like and wants to leave. But I thought he did it in a classy way where behind the scenes he works it out with the Texans. They let him go, and now he goes someplace else as opposed to let me really drag the laundry out and explain to everybody in Houston why I'm leaving.
But how is it clean and in a classy way when everything that you've told the fan base as to the reasons as to why you wanted to move on turn out to not be what your actions are on the other side of it?
What's not true?
You didn't go to a contender. You're not. That's not a perceived contender for the Super Bowl. You're not showing me that you made the decision to go take less money to go somewhere else to go try to win Super Bowls because you weren't going in that direction in Houston? I thought it was a little disingenuous. And I don't even recall what my point was with Russell Wilson. I'm on to the next segment. But I will say this. If I'm Russell Wilson, as opposed to what J.J. Watt is in this scenario, Russell Wilson has a whole lot more leverage in the scenario than what J.J. Watt does. J.J. Watt didn't have to move. J.J. Watt didn't have to leave. J.J. Watt didn't have to try to leverage anything because he is at the end of his career. His best days are behind him. He's going to be a role player for a team from here on out. He's not going to be the man. Russell Wilson has a very different situation that's playing out for him and what his opportunities present for him. Russell Wilson is trying to gain respect as an MVP of this National Football League. Russell Wilson is trying to gain respect of winning championships as the main guy that is the main ingredient of winning these championships. Russell Wilson has a much different agenda that's playing out for him than what J.J. Watt does. J.J. Watt, at this point, no reason to burn any bridges with the fans that have loved you for your entire career, of the best parts of your career. I just thought it was a misstep, Rick. I ain't saying what isn't good for one isn't good for the other. I'm just saying it's different. This one is different. It's different.
Yeah, and I think this is where, as media, we kind of go wrong when we put our ideologies on someone else, our assumptions on someone else. And I think for me, when I listened to J.J. Watt, when I sat down with J.J. Watt and I heard him express the feelings and those sentiments and that emotion that he talked with and he spoke with, it made me believe that he's going to go to some team that literally, I know, Rick, you say there's no guarantee, but there's almost a guaranteed amount of success that you can get if you know that you're going to Tampa or you going to Green Bay, because history tells you the path for them is already pretty much written. They have the pieces. I can add to that. And it's no longer about the money. However, solely locking on JJ, I am not mad at you, my friend, because when you are at the back end of your career and you can, I'm not saying that the Arizona Cardinals are not a contender, because they can be very competitive and they can compete. They were third in that division. Chandler Jones is going to give them even more of an opportunity, because defensively, when he went out, that's when that team started to pretty much unravel. So I do think he adds value. I think he thought about that this roster that he had, his opportunity to still be impactful on a team that has a lot of pieces, that he doesn't have to carry the load. And Rick, to your point, that dollar looked real good to him. And there was no way that he could turn that down. I'm not going to sit here and act like I would have turned that down.
Yeah.
If I would have had other options, that would have been much less, but could have probably kind of garnered more success as far as wins.
It just doesn't match what he said.
It did not match what he said.
I'm okay with it, though.
In our opinion.
I'm okay with it, though.
That's our view. That's our lens.
J.J. Watt, get that money, bro. Get that money. Hey, I'm okay with it, but that just doesn't answer the question.
Money can certainly change circumstances.
It changes everything, Rick.
And the ability to rationalize why you're doing one thing and it's okay because the money compensates for it. I think we're all capable of that. So I'm not going to hate on him for that. But LaVar, you were saying that he's in a different place than Russell Wilson.
He is, much different.
He is. But he actually had more leverage in terms of being able to go someplace else, because he's no longer in his prime. The Texans knew that what they were giving up wasn't worth the money that they were going to pay him to stay. And he had been the face of the franchise, had made good business sense to let him have what he wanted at this stage, because he wasn't going to deliver. They know what he has left in the bag. And so they were willing to make that move. The Seahawks also know what Russell Wilson has and the value of a quarterback in today's NFL. And they don't want to see him go without some sort of compensation. Texans were in a different place with J.J. Watt, and that worked for him. And boy, did it ever, because I said it, but the Cardinals investing that much in J.J. Watt at this stage, they're going to win the press conference. Everybody's going to be excited. I need to see that money pay off, that salary pay off on the field next year, and I'm not convinced, with or without Chandler Jones, that that's going to happen.
I will say this, Rick. I am not convinced that he is done and that he is not the J.J. Watt that we once. I know he doesn't have the same motor, but he led that team in almost every statistical category defensively, with the exception of one, I believe, and with no help.
And he played 16 games.
With no other defensive lineman. He played an entire season. And so we don't know the greatness that we're missing out on when you don't have pieces. You look to your left, you look to your right, and there's no help. You can't win by yourself in this league. And so I truly believe he tried to go to a situation where obviously the money is what it is, but he also saw the personnel. And I believe Van Joseph plays a huge part because of how he uses his guys and how he schemes the guys and how he gets after the quarterback in a variety of ways. That is appealing to a player who is in his prime, who still feel like he does have motor left and a lot more to give, but he doesn't have to give it on every single down, and it's all on him. That's where J.J. Watt is in his career. That's what he saw in the Arizona Cardinals, and he was able to get compensated pretty nicely for it, so he wins.